I paid for my brother's big break. Then he cut me out of the deal. I guess I should have seen it coming. I've always been the responsible one. That's what everyone called me growing up. The one who held things together while my younger brother Jake flitted from one half-baked dream to another. Music producer. Graphic designer. Crypto investor. And every single time, I was there, quietly covering the rent when he couldn't, helping him with his resume, even co-signing a loan once. That one still haunts me, but the worst mistake? Backing his damn restaurant. I run a marketing firm. Small but successful. My life was built on late nights, risk, and zero help from anyone. Jake, on the other hand, thought the world owed him applause for just existing. Last year, he came to me with this big idea, a food truck that served Latin Asian fusion. He'd never worked in food a day in his life, but he'd watched a few YouTube chefs and swore he had a vision. I should have laughed it off. But he looked at me the way he used to when we were kids, like I was the only person who believed in him. Maybe that's what broke me. So I said yes. I paid for the truck, the permits, the startup food supply. I even used my agency to do all his branding and social media for free. I wrote the copy, built the website, got him press. Within 3 months, he had a line down the block. Jake was flying high. I was just glad he was finally making something of himself. Then came the call. It was a Tuesday. I was eating leftovers at my desk when my assistant buzzed in, saying there was a reporter on the line. I figured it was about Jake. Our work had been getting buzz. So I took it. Hi, is this Ava Sanders? You're listed as the PR contact for Little Ember? Yes, that's my brother's food truck, I said proudly. There was a pause. Actually, that's odd. According to their new website, the owner is Jacob Sanders. No mention of a PR firm or co-founder. My stomach dropped that night. I went to check the website myself. Everything I built was still there, the logo, the slogans, the images, but my company's name? Scrubbed. My copy? Reworded just enough to skirt copyright. And worst of all, Jake had partnered with some investor. A new partner. They'd registered the LLC without me. I stared at the screen until my eyes blurred. This wasn't just a betrayal. It was an erasure. I didn't sleep that night, and my heart was pounding. My jaw clenched so tight it ached by morning. I kept refreshing the website like it was some kind of nightmare that might vanish if I stared hard enough. But it was real. My name, my company, my contributions, gone. Replaced by a shiny new logo and a bio that painted Jake as a self-made entrepreneur. Self-made? Was he kidding? By 9 a.m., I was standing outside the truck. Jake looked surprised and guilty. Like a kid caught sneaking out after curfew. He stepped out from behind the counter, wiping his hands on a towel like nothing was wrong. Ava, hey. Didn't know you were coming by. I didn't say anything. I just handed him a printed copy of the LLC registration and the new investor agreement I'd pulled from the state's public business filings. He read it, then sighed. Look, I was gonna talk to you about all this. When? I asked, voice low. Before or after I found out I was cut out of the company I paid for? His expression hardened. It's not like that. No? I snapped. Then how is it? Jake glanced around. People were watching. He tugged me a few feet away from the truck. It's just business, Ava. You fronted the money, yeah, and I appreciate it. But I'm the one running it. I'm here 12 hours a day. I needed someone who could invest long-term, not just be a silent partner. I was never silent, I hissed. I built your brand. And I'm grateful, he said, too quickly. But you already have your company. I need this to be mine. The word mine hit me like a slap. So that's what this was about. Ownership. Image. He didn't want to look like someone's project. He wanted to be the guy who made it from nothing, even if that meant burning the bridge that got him there. I felt sick. I'm giving you a week, I said quietly. Add me back. Acknowledge the deal we had even if it wasn't in writing. or I take legal action." He laughed. Laughed, "You wouldn't do that to your own brother." I stared at him. "Watch me." I turned and walked away, but inside I was falling apart. Not just because of the betrayal, but because part of me still hoped he'd fix it. That he'd realize how cruel this was. Instead, I got a cease and desist letter 2 days later, from his lawyer, claiming I was the one infringing on his brand. That was the moment I stopped mourning and started planning. I didn't cry. Not when I got the cease and desist. Not when my lawyer told me I didn't have a solid case because everything was done on a handshake and trust. Not even when I realized Jake had never intended to keep me in long term. I didn't cry. I seethed. The betrayal burned in my veins like acid, replayed every moment in my head, the late nights at my office designing his logo, helping him plan the launch, using my own team, my people, to get him media coverage. I'd put my name and reputation behind his dream, and now, I was the villain in his story. So fine, he wanted to play entrepreneur, let's see how he handled the real game. First, I started small. Quiet. I had receipts, invoices, emails, drafts with metadata, voice memos where he thanked me for handling everything because he was drowning. I archived it all. Not for court. For something better, a reputation. You see, Jake didn't know I still had access to the Instagram account I'd created for the food truck. My agency had set it up under my business account, and he'd never changed the login. So I made a post, just a quote, white text on black background. Sometimes the people you feed are the first to starve you. No caption. No context. But the comments lit up. Then I unfollowed him from my agency's profile. Pulled the press releases from every outlet we'd pitched. My firm stopped reposting his content. I deleted the case study from our site, and then I did what he feared most. I reached out to his investor. I kept it professional. Sent a cordial email introducing myself as the original brand strategist and financial backer, who had been removed without compensation or credit. I included links to timestamps, screenshots, even Dropbox folders with version history. Just to clarify the history of the project. 2 days later, I got a reply. The investor had no idea. He'd been told Jake created it all solo. Classic. He thanked me for the information. Said he'd be in touch. Less than a week after that, Jake's food truck Instagram went dark. The truck stopped showing up at its regular spot. No new posts. No lines. I heard later the investor backed out. Pulled funding. Turns out he didn't like being lied to. Jake called me that night. I didn't answer. Then he texted, "You happy now?" I stared at the message, heart racing. I wanted to reply something dramatic. Something vicious, but instead, I wrote, "Just business, right?" I thought the worst was behind me, but no. That's when they got involved. My parents, God, I should have known. Jake's always been the golden boy, even when he was failing community college for the 3rd time or forgetting to pay rent for 6 months. Meanwhile, I was the dependable one, which, in our family, translated to the one who doesn't need attention. So when the truck shut down and Jake came crawling home, tail between his legs, who do you think they blamed? Not him. Me. It started with a call from my mother. "I just don't understand why you're being so harsh," she said, like I'd left a dog in the rain. "He's your brother. He was trying. He stole from me," I said flatly. "Oh Ava, don't be dramatic. It's not like he took money from your wallet." I was stunned. "He took tens of thousands of dollars, Mom. He cut me out of a business I built." "But you're doing fine, sweetheart. You've always been successful." There it was, the family motto, tattooed into my childhood. If you're strong, you don't get to hurt. My dad chimed in a day later with his favorite line, "You should have gotten it in writing." Thanks, Dad. Real helpful. And no one asked how I was doing. No one wondered how it felt to be erased, betrayed, and then painted as the villain because I wouldn't just smile through it. First, I tried to defend myself. Sent them emails. Screenshots. Evidence. They didn't care. What mattered was that Jake was struggling. That he was devastated. That I had humiliated him by exposing the truth. If I was supposed to let him rewrite our shared story just to protect his fragile pride. It got worse. Jake started showing up at family dinners again, ones I wasn't invited to. I found out through my cousin's Instagram. There they were, all of them, laughing, eating, posting birthday wishes to the best brother ever. Like nothing had happened, like I was the problem, and that's when something inside me snapped. I stopped calling. Stopped showing up. Birthdays, holidays, the occasional family Zoom night, gone. I didn't send a dramatic text. I didn't make a scene, I just disappeared, let them enjoy their golden boy, let them pretend the girl who once kept that family from collapsing didn't exist. I poured myself back into my work. Doubled my client list. Hired 3 new employees. Moved into a bigger office. Jake could keep his ashes. I was building something out of fire. Months went by. I thought I was done with him. With all of them. My family, their expectations, the whole twisted narrative. I'd taken the hit, rebuilt, and kept moving, but karma has a funny way of circling back, especially when you stop waiting for it. One afternoon, I was in a client meeting when my assistant slipped me a note. Jacob Sanders here. No appointment. Says it's urgent. My blood turned cold. I stepped out into the lobby, and there he was. Jake. Slouched in a chair like a guilty teenager waiting for the principal. He looked thinner. Tired. Not the arrogant foodpreneur from a few months ago. This was a man who'd run out of options. I didn't say anything. Just stared at him. He stood up too fast. Hey. Can we talk? I motioned to a small conference room. He sat. I didn't make it quick. He swallowed hard. I messed up. Silence. I thought I could do it on my own. I was stupid. I let my ego. I let it ruin everything. You didn't let it, I said. You chose to. He nodded, eyes low. I know. I do. And I'm not asking for money or anything. I need your help. That got a bitter laugh out of me. Help? After the letter your lawyer sent me? After you told Mom and Dad I hijacked your dream? His face turned red. I didn't think they'd take my side like that. I just wanted to save face. You threw me under a bus. I know. I know I did. There was a long pause. I let the silence do its work. Watched him squirm in it. Finally, he looked up. I've got another idea. Smaller this time. No investors. I just need help getting it off the ground. Even just advice. A pitch deck. Something. I looked at him and saw the same boy who used to break my toys and then ask me to fix them, but I wasn't that sister anymore. I'm running a company, I said coldly. And we charge for consultations. His eyes widened. Ava, come on, I held up a hand. You don't get to use me for free anymore, Jake. Not as your sister. Not as your crutch. If you want help, book a meeting. Pay the rate. Sign a contract. He looked gutted. You'd really make me do that? No, Jake, I said. You made you do that. I opened the door and motioned toward it. He walked out without another word, and for the first time in months, I felt something close to peace. I thought seeing Jake beg would bring satisfaction, and maybe for a moment, it did. But what surprised me more was how quickly the feeling passed. Like biting into something you thought was sweet, only to realize you're not hungry anymore. A week later, my mother called again, voicemail. I didn't pick up. Her voice was tight, rehearsed, like she'd spent hours deciding what tone might guilt me best. Your brother's in a rough place. He's been trying. He told us he reached out. I hope you'll consider being the bigger person. The bigger person. I'd been the bigger person for 3 decades. Bigger than the insults. Bigger than the neglect. Bigger than the silence when I succeeded and the outrage when I spoke up. Didn't call her back. 2 days later, I got an email from my father. Short. Formal. Not a hint of warmth. You've made your point. We hope you can find it in yourself to move on and let the family heal. Heal, I wasn't the wound, I was the scar they didn't want to look at, because it reminded them of how they failed to protect me, or worse, how they never even tried, but the real funeral came a few weeks after that, not literal, figurative. The death of any illusion I still held about what family meant to my cousin sent me a screenshot from Jake's new project. A sad little website for a consulting service that looked like it was made in a rush by a high schooler. No brand, no strategy, no voice. Just buzzwords and a contact form, and at the bottom, founded and led by Jacob Sanders, with the support of his incredible family. I stared at that line for a long time, not out of pain, out of relief, because there it was. The clean break I didn't even realize I needed, wasn't part of that family anymore, not the version they built around him. And if he wanted to keep pretending he was their prodigy, let them, I had my own legacy to build. And it didn't need a shared last name or blood ties, it needed one thing only, truth, and for the first time in years, I was finally living in it. After that last email, I stopped checking. Stopped wondering. I blocked their numbers, muted every cousin, unfollowed every relative who didn't want to get involved. If silence was the language my family spoke fluently, then fine, I'd become fluent, too, and in that silence, I found power. I started waking up without dread in my stomach. No more wondering if I was going to get a passive-aggressive text from my mother or a LinkedIn notification that Jake was trying, and failing, to rebuild his image. No more wondering if this would be the week someone finally said I'm sorry and meant it. It never came, but I realized I didn't need it anymore. Instead, I poured everything into my business. Rebranded. Hired a full-time creative team. Opened a second office across the state. I was flying out to LA for meetings with clients I used to dream of working with. My name was showing up in industry blogs and conference panels, and the best part, I did it without stealing. Without betraying. Without hiding behind someone else's sacrifice point. One day, I got a call from a new client, a restaurant group launching a modern soul food concept. During the call, the VP mentioned that one of the other candidates they'd considered had pitched them with eerily similar branding, and mentioned working on a food truck years ago. Some guy named Jake Sanders, she said. Sounded sketchy, honestly. His portfolio was all fluff. I almost laughed. I didn't even have to sabotage him. He was doing that all by himself, but I didn't gloat. I just said, yeah. Sounds familiar. Let me show you something stronger. And I did. Because I am stronger. The truth is, I think I needed this whole saga to finally wake up. To realize that being the good daughter, the helpful sister, the quiet achiever wasn't just a family role, it was a cage. One I'd willingly stepped into again and again, hoping someone would eventually notice the bars, but they never did. And when I finally walked out, no one came after me. That used to hurt. Now it just confirms I did the right thing. I've created a new circle now. Friends who celebrate my wins without turning them into competitions. A team that respects my voice. Clients who listen, really listen, and pay what I'm worth. The family I lost? Maybe they never really existed. What I have now. I built it brick by brick, on truth, grit, and fire. And Jake? He's just a cautionary tale I don't bother telling anymore, except, maybe, in stories like this, because sometimes, the only way to rise is to burn everything that tried to bury you, and make sure the world sees the ashes. It's funny how people assume revenge has to be loud, that it needs a confrontation, a big speech, a dramatic door slam. But that's not how real justice feels. Not when you've been broken and rebuilt from the inside out. Real justice is quieter. The contract signed in your name while they're still Googling how to write a pitch deck. It's a check with more zeros than your brother ever imagined seeing. Earned, not stolen. Knowing your absence is felt more than your presence ever was appreciated. A few weeks ago, I got an email from Jake.no subject line. Just a paragraph that looked like it hurt him to write. I know I messed everything up. I don't expect you to forgive me, and I won't insult you by pretending I didn't try to tear you down. But watching you succeed anyway, it's made me realize what I threw away. I'm sorry. I really am. I didn't reply, not because I'm still angry, because I'm done. The part no one tells you about healing. Sometimes it looks like indifference. Like deleting an apology without reading it twice. Like no longer needing them to understand what they did, because you understand who you are now. Still have the text Jake sent me that night he took the truck, the one that said, "Don't take this personally." I never responded to that either, but I did screenshot it. I keep it in a folder on my phone titled Fuel. Right next to the image of my company's first billboard, next to the wire transfer from my biggest client to date, next to a selfie of me in the new office, smiling so hard it almost looks fake. Except it's the first real smile I've worn in years. The kind of revenge I like, not the petty kind, not the loud kind, the kind that says, "You tried to end me. And I became someone you'll never catch up to." So, no, I didn't ruin Jake, I didn't expose him online, or call our parents to gloat, or crash one of their backyard barbecues with the truth. Let him tell his own story. Because I knew eventually, the lies would collapse under their own weight, and I wrote a better one for myself. So if you're reading this, and you've been betrayed, belittled, erased, don't wait for justice to knock on your door. Be your own reckoning. Because sometimes, the sweetest revenge isn't what you do to them, it's who you become in spite of them.